going to be interviewed today. Before we begin, I just want to say that there are questions about sex education, sexuality, and gender identity that are sensitive or controversial in nature, so if at any point in time you become uncomfortable and don't want to answer, please refrain from doing so.
Okay.
First question is, how do you identify in terms of sexuality and gender?
I am a homosexual male.
Have you ever felt excluded based on your gender and or sexuality, and if so, how?
Yes, I have felt excluded based on my sexuality. I grew up in a conservative small town where the majority had conservative beliefs, and were against the whole idea of homosexuality. And my religion played a big aspect into this because it was against homosexuality, and so I wasn't really allowed to express my feelings towards men, and that was pretty much how everyone felt in the town. Adults, yes.
Have you ever felt pressured to conform to gender stereotypes and or expectations, and if so, which ones?
Yes, I have. Well, since I was a homosexual, I wasn't really allowed to be who I was, so I felt pressure to be a heterosexual male and do heterosexual things and date girls and try to be more athletic and I guess do more masculine things and dress masculine and I guess not express my feelings, like I guess men aren't supposed to cry, so based on the stereotype that I grew up in, so I had to grow up in, I guess, having a wall.
When did you first learn about sex or receive sex education?
Well, I learned about sex education in 5th grade. They taught us basically about hygiene and things like that, and puberty. Puberty was taught in middle school too. And when I was in high school, I learned a lot about childbirth. But all of the education I learned from elementary to high school was really heterosexual. I learned nothing about homosexuality at all. But in college, I took a class based on sexual behaviors, and I learned a lot about homosexuality and the type of relationships that one could get into. I learned about pansexuality, asexuality, bisexuality, pretty much all of them. Androgyny, transsexuals, drag. I learned about different kinds of sexual relationships, like open relationships, and a lot of different techniques for contraceptives. Learned a lot about those.
You've talked about the roles that schools have had in your sex education. So, what role, if any, did your parent or parents have in that?
Well, my parents had a lot of traditional values, and based on our religion and stuff. So, they believed that sex was something that should be waited for after marriage, and that your virginity is sacred, and that have sex with someone that loves you first, and not just a useless hookup. And they taught me that basically thought that a lot of homosexuals were I guess promiscuous and as a stereotype, and they thought that they were not very trustful as partners to have.
How do you feel about what is currently being taught in schools?
Well, education could be different since my elementary years were 10 years ago. Things could have changed, but based on my experiences, I felt that sex education should have been more taught in high school and middle school. Different birth contraceptives should have been taught. Different types of sexualities should have been taught in high school and middle school, and I guess homosexuality as well. Because middle school and high school are when we're transitioning to puberty and figuring things out and what we're aroused to, and I felt that it was really important for us to be educated during those years and know the harm that that one could have when having sex without a condom.
Do you feel that there's anything missing from current sex education, in addition to what you've already talked about?
they should talk a lot about homosexuality and how homophobia could have an impact on how homosexuals, on homosexuals.
So the psychological aspects.
Yeah, the psychological aspects as well. Definitely how suicide can be prevented and, just to show more acceptance.
How do you feel about gender identities and sexualities being taught in schools?
I feel that that would make a really positive impact, and it would educate, all of us on those topics, and we won't be narrow-minded and bigoted on them.
What would you like to see schools incorporate into the educational system?
Basically, the topics you just said.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you wish to add?
I feel like they should make an impact on homosexuals, and that they should let them know that it does get better. That parents do change their mind and could be more accepting of their children, just like mine did. So yeah, it does get better.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.